I don't think you have to say Web3. Web3 seems scary to people, but Amazon has such a great track record of monetizing multiple things. So how did they do that? I went to Amazon to learn all of that. And at the time, all of those were Web2 applications, not Web3 applications.
Right.
So I started going down the rabbit hole on blockchain. I think that's a really fascinating move for us. And I think long term, it's going to play out very strategically. Number two, I think, is our what we call ud.me profile. Now, these badges are really representative of communities that I belong to. Well, I started in artificial intelligence back in 2013. That's a long time ago. Bimlesh, I had someone say to me, oh, no, you couldn't have done AI then because ChatGPT didn't exist back then. Investment in blockchain and AI go up because people are recognizing some of the gaps and the holes in that.
What are some of those different themes that you have started to see from your vantage point over the last 6-8 months?
Every industry session I went to had a discussion about tokenization, women of Web3 and AI. Now, why is that important? Well, I love quotes, and one of my favorite quotes says, if you can see it, you can be it.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hash It Out, a podcast by Foundership. My name is Bimlesh Gundurao, and I'm super excited to host a fantastic guest today. She's been one of the go-getters in the tech industry. She's Sandy Carter from Unstoppable Domain. She's the Chief Operating Officer today, and super excited. And thank you so much, Sandy, for joining us.
Well, thank you, Bimlesh, for having me here today. I can't wait to hash it out with you.
Wonderful. So just to give a quick brief intro to everyone who's listening in, Foundership is a global Web3 accelerator. We work with early stage startups with our flagship program called 0x Camp, where you can build for early traction or you can get ready for a token launch program. We invest about $100,000 through our network of investors in the token launch program. And we also have a growth advisory program for startups at later stage who are now looking to launch their token after having figured out a lot of things around their startups and business. So having built a portfolio of about 40 companies from 9 countries, we are super excited in expanding our operations beyond Singapore, India, and Dubai. And we look forward to working with many startups across the world and activating a lot of our communities that happens in about 35 cities worldwide. And with this, we'll jump in. I first started to watch and see Sandy Carter during her AWS days, most of it in the online space. And, so that's where, Sandy caught my attention in the passionate work that she was doing. And I would love to hear your journey, Sandy, pre-Web3, and then your journey as to what made you to get into Web3 and how excited are you, given that we are in the third bull cycle right now?
Wow, that's a lot of questions. Okay, so if you think about, my background, I've always been in tech. Typically, what I do is I was like in a startup, and then I went to IBM, which is a big company. Then I went to a startup, and I went to AWS, and then from AWS, I went to another startup. So typically, I like to go in between enterprise companies and startups. And a lot of the times I go to an enterprise company to learn. So for example, this last break that I took after my AI startup, I went to Amazon Web Services, and I just learned a lot about business itself, right? Like, how do you obsess over a customer? So not should you, but how do you do it? How do you develop, our write a lot skills? Like, how do you develop those skills? How do you use mechanisms to monetize different business ideas? Because if you think about it, there's a lot of companies out there who figured out how to monetize one thing or two things, but Amazon has such a great track record of monetizing multiple things. So how did they do that? I went to Amazon to learn all of that. And of course, I was doing that in tech. I started at a group called the Enterprise Workload Group. So I really formed that group. I was the first leader for that group. And then part of what I did is I went on to work with regulated industries. And that's where I was first introduced to the whole concept of blockchain. A lot of regulated industries were using blockchain either for their ledger, like hospitals, supply chain, or using it for national defense, or leveraging it to really as a ledger as they move forward. And I really got interested in it and what it was doing. At the time, all of those were Web 2 applications, not Web 3 applications.
Right.
So I started going down the rabbit hole on blockchain. And that's when I first got introduced to Web 3, started doing a couple of side projects. I thought the technology was just really powerful and amazing. It had some gaps like scalability as well, but I just thought it was such a powerful instrument and tool. And so as I started thinking about that and doing side projects at the same time, our CEO and founder came and met me in Seattle, took me out to dinner, and described to me the mission of Unstoppable to provide a digital identity for Web3 that lived on blockchain and why that needed to be on blockchain, and the powerful elements of being able then to own your own data and own your own digital identity because it was on blockchain. And the rest was history. So I decided, I had been with Amazon for about 5 years, and I had only planned on staying 2, but I stayed 5 and decided to go back out in the startup world and see if I could help create something here. And since I've been here, we started with 41 partners. We now have over 1,000. We started with about 400,000 users. We now have almost 4 million users. And we are now a unicorn, which, as you know, is really hard to get to that unicorn stage. So we're now also a unicorn.
Fantastic. So you bring this unique experience of startup building experience, and as well as in a large corporate, right? What have you seen when you work in a startup, and especially when you're in one of the first few senior hires into the company, you get to work very closely with the founders. And many founders are not equipped themselves to handle the growth journey, right? Because it also takes a lot of unlearning, learning something new, and also relearning some of the management principles and also business models. What have you seen some of the fascinating things that Unstoppable Domains underwent through us in managing the change in such a fast evolving space?
Yeah, so it is really, I think it's really fascinating. As the market goes up and down, obviously you have different lessons that you've learned and different pivots that you've taken. And I think for me, the interesting thing is the lessons that I learned at Amazon. Start small, see if it works. If it doesn't, pivot to something else. Don't go roll something out everywhere and then discover you have to tweak it or it doesn't work at all. I think that has really played well in the Web3 journey that I've been on with Unstoppable. We've tried several different things. Some we tried and it didn't work. Some we tried and we had to pivot a little bit. And those lessons I think I learned at Amazon has really helped me be adaptable and changeable and willing to change to make things work the right way for the customers. I think the thing that hasn't changed is that customer obsession. And so I lead a monthly meeting with what we call our whales, which are our biggest customers. And, we listen intently to what they would like us to do and how they see the market and what they're experiencing. Now, we don't do everything they ask. Obviously, we can't because we're a small company, but definitely everything that they tell us feed in. And I would say 90% of the things that we deliver have come from our top customers and our top partners. And I think, whether you're in a bull market or a bear market, I think as long as you're listening to your customers, not paying attention to your competitors, not just focused on the market itself, but you're paying attention to your customers, the more successful that you can be and the more you can build during those downtimes, so that then when the market starts to rise, you rise with the market with a great solution that has a lot of utility for your users.
Fantastic. I think that always stands a test of time when you focus on your customers and not on the noise on the market or on the competitors. Fantastic. Talk to us about some of the new initiatives and products that you have seen come out through Unstoppable Domains, because you guys started off as own your identity, right? But now over the last 2 years, you have launched and brought in a whole slew of set of products. So talk to us a little bit about some of the hero products and some of the new opportunities that you're showcasing as solutions to new startups and to new integrations.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things that are really powerful. So one is we did a Web3 application marketplace. So, obviously there are NFT marketplaces like Magic Eden and variable, but there wasn't one place for applications. So we started it, it's called unstoppablemarketplace.com, and you can go there and now you can see like all the applications that Unstoppable has integrated with, all 1,000 of them. You can sort it by, show me all 173 wallets, or show me all the games that you've integrated with, or show me, different items or different elements that we might want to look at. I think that is really important and strategic, because strategically it gives your users a place to go to find out all the utility that you've created. It enables your partners to be able to market to other users as well. And I think it's a really just a groundbreaking way to start. I learned this from Amazon because we started the Amazon marketplace. It didn't start out being a great revenue generator, but now is a great revenue generator and is replicated in multiple different hyperscalers cloud models. So I think that's number one. I think that's a really fascinating move for us. And I think long term, it's going to play out very strategically. Number two, I think, is our what we call ud.me profile. So this is like a LinkedIn for Web3. And in that profile page, you really have a way to have a trust verified LinkedIn profile. So it's based on my digital identity, like sandy.x or sandy.crypto. It has a reputation score in it. It comes from one of our partners named Webacy. Tells you how safe my wallet is and how safe it is to do business with me. But it's also got all my activities. It's got my collectibles in there. So I can prove, for example, that I am supporting sustainability, because sustainability is something you shouldn't just talk about. It's something that you should take action on. Or I can prove that I went to a class and got certified because I got a soulbound token inside of my digital identity. Or if I lived in California, where they're now putting car titles, tokens, or tokenizing them, I could show that as well. So now inside of this profile, I have the ability to showcase what I stand for, what I was educated on, my credentials, as well as all my fun stuff too. I'm able to have that in one place with a reputation score, and it has badges. Now, these badges are really representative of communities that I belong to. So I could belong to a community like Pudgy Penguins because I own a Pudgy Penguin, or I could belong to a community because it's just something that's really important to me, like around sustainability or women of Web3. That's really a mission statement more than I'm just belonging because I own an NFT. It's something that I do. And everybody who's in a community can actually communicate now through a group chat feature that is encrypted. And so all of these elements for me make this ud.me profile page just a massive hero product. And then the third one, so we talked about the marketplace, we talked about the ud.me profile, which is like a LinkedIn for Web3, trust verified. The third one that I would say is really powerful in the marketplace is for brands to create their own digital identity community. And what do I mean by that? Well, Polygon, we all know and love Polygon. There is now a sandy.polygon. And the value in that is now we've got this community that is Polygon oriented. They can communicate through that group chat, but it gives them a way to present themselves to the market that is different and is very community forward. For me, that's really important because in Web3, the project is the community and the community is the project. And so when you have that ability to now represent that community, I think that that's really powerful. We've now done this for a city, Austin. We've done it for NFT collections like Pudgy Penguins. We've done it for wallets like Creases, for example. We've done it for NFT projects like Pudgy Penguin. And we've done it for chains like Polygon and like blockchain.com. So we're seeing a big uptick in this, and we believe this will continue forward because community is one of the last forms of true competitive advantage out there. So I think this element will also just keep growing as well.
Fantastic. It's really amazing to see that how from one layer of digital identity for a user, you have been able to build out a plethora of solutions that serves both the apps and the users as well, right? That's fantastic. Now, what are some of your, as a CEO it's always a challenge in building, in keeping up with the speed of the innovation in this industry, right? What has been some of your management principles or mantras, that has always yielded you results, and some of your key learnings as you move as a leader from different organizations?
Well, I mean, I think you hit it. And one of those is just always be curious and be learning, and everything eventually comes back together, I would say. So, for example, I started in artificial intelligence back in 2013. That's a long time ago, right? I mean, 2013. In fact, the other day, Bimlesh, I had someone say to me, "Oh, no, you couldn't have done AI then because ChatGPT didn't exist back then." And I had to explain AI is much more than just generative AI that we have today. But the cool thing is, because I just keep learning and am very curious, I read a lot, I listen to a lot of podcasts. When I work out, I'm always listening to something or talking to someone, just to understand what they see and what they're learning today as well. I do now see like blockchain and AI coming together. I think AI will be a big booster for blockchain, because blockchain adds to it elements of trust verification that AI needs desperately today to develop its trust, for example. And so I've always just been really curious about next technologies, so I always learn as much as I can about them. The other thing that I do is I follow social media really, really strongly as well. And that means I learn a lot from what is talked about, right? Like now base. If you've watched Twitter over the last 3 weeks, before no one would mention base. Now everybody's mentioning base, for example. It's just another thing that you're like catching on to. And then you can say, oh, okay, I've now heard base like 100 times. I need to go figure out what base is. Or meme coins, right?
Right.
Meme coins just came on the scene. And if you don't know what a meme coin is, you're kind of out.
Yeah.
But you just have to keep watching. So that's the other thing I do is I do scan social for trends. I do also participate in the communication, but I think scanning for trends is also really important. And then I watch where the investment goes, right? So I watch folks like you and say, where are you investing? What are you investing in? And so then I can also see some of the trends, right? Like I'm seeing now, obviously investment in AI went way up. Now it's kind of stabilized or going a little bit down. I'm watching investment in blockchain and AI go up because people are recognizing some of the gaps and the holes in that. I'm seeing more of the technology convergence too, like spatial with AI, with blockchain, like for gaming in particular, that new game. And so I think that, as you're out there scoping out and exploring, this gives you the opportunity to, start to come up with new innovations and new ideas as well.
Fantastic. What do you think has been a big shift outside of AI in the blockchain space over the last 8 months or so? Right. Previous to that, I'll tell you what our experience has been. It was, you would see just at the start of the bear market, you would see a lot of NFT projects, a lot of NFT marketplaces still coming up. NFT infrastructure focused projects would come up. Now the type of projects that are coming out is very different, right? One, because the entire NFT market is down, so there's no longer a tempting opportunity out there. But a lot of smaller, smart founders are launching out meme coins and still trying to figure out, hey, let me focus on flavor of the season and make some money and get out. But long-term builders are looking at something different. What are some of those different themes that you have started to see from your vantage point over the last 6-8 months?
Well, I think there is, one I see is NFTs beyond art. And what do I mean by that? Well, yesterday I was meeting with a company that enables you to purchase property with an NFT. And that includes, there's value points, right? Reduction of the number of times you have to sign. You don't lose your title. It's more easily transferable. So I think, NFTs beyond just art are taking hold. Music. I just met with an Emmy nominated, she won the Grammy. Sorry, she won a Grammy. And her album that she won the Grammy with, she made so little money off of it that the second she got the rights back to it, she started turning that music into NFTs. and selling it. She's made more money off of that than she did off of her Grammy award-winning album, which blew me away. So I think that piece is really fascinating. The other one I think is in the same vein with blockchain is tokenization. Tokenizing everything. Right. I recently had the honor of going to Davos, and it wasn't stated as a trend, but what I saw was that every industry session I went to had a discussion about tokenization. Some of the really far out ones that I thought were interesting was around space. So I used to run our space accelerator, our outer space accelerator at AWS. Okay. So space has been fascinating to me. I wanted to be an astronaut at one time. I helped rover get to Mars through a partner. So this is an interesting area. So they were talking in this space session at Davos about tokenizing space debris. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, first of all, there's all this trash circling the earth, right? So you want someone to be responsible for getting the trash down. But what I didn't realize is that debris, once it comes back, it has a lot of value. There's a lot of money there. And people fight over whose debris it is. Is that my debris? Is that your debris? Right. Because it's worth millions and millions of dollars. And so what they're doing now is they're tokenizing it. They're providing a digital record of ownership before it goes up. So when it comes down, you can identify ownership through that tokenization. I thought that was pretty fascinating. I know most people are like, I don't really care about space, but I was also in a lot of sessions on clothing. One startup is out of Japan, and in Japan, everybody wants their baby to have Burberry clothes, the right. designer label. But, your baby grows out of it. So you want to sell it. There's a huge secondary market for Burberry clothes. But how do you verify that little onesie is actually Burberry, not a fake? So now what they're doing is they're digitizing the ownership of it to prove that it's authentic, that it is actually a Burberry brand. And then the other one I found was around sustainability. And this is around being able to identify from cradle to grave where a product came from. There are new standards now where if you're going to say this shirt is sustainable or this cup is sustainable, you have to prove it. Well, how do you prove it? So with a token now that exists on blockchain, now you can watch how that item has gone through multiple stages from cradle to grave. And so I think that that's a really fascinating use case. And again, I don't think you have to say Web3. Web3 seems scary to people. I think you can just talk about the value that it brings. And this is another interesting one on tokenization. I actually had someone who developed a large language model in AI, and they tokenized it so that the ownership of that model would always be credited to that creator, which I thought was fascinating. So now here again, you're getting back into AI with blockchain, you're tokenizing your large language model, which is also interesting. So I think that that's another big trend, so NFTs beyond art and then tokenization. I think that's really interesting as well. And then I think that there's this whole area of cross-chain and interoperability. Right. I think that's becoming a rising focus too, because there's now this lack of interoperability between chains, right? How do you allow for seamless communication and transfer of assets? So you have to build a cross-chain bridge or protocols. Those have become more prevalent, but I think everybody's trying to solve this problem. I think, if you look at even Polygon's latest campaign, aggregation, right? And we don't care which chain it's on, we're going to aggregate and make it easy for you to do these things. I think that's another area as well.
Fantastic. I think you're right on the tokenization of everything, because that seems to be a trending topic over the last 60, 90 days now. And, literally given the spat that AI models are learning without taking permissions on existing content and creatives that different forms of creators produce in different streams of work around the world. Every piece of work can essentially become tokenized and will be forced to tokenize, so that the language models, when they start learning from these content, that triggers that usage, and that's how the tokenization can keep a track that how much of my content was used. right?
You got it. In fact, one of the retailers who was going to look at a green supply chain, which I thought was interesting, was using blockchain to tokenize, where things came from, but was applying AI to optimize their supply chain.
Right.
So now that knew cradle to grave, AI was doing the supply chain optimization. I think that's another, in my mind, you told me not to mention AI, but I think that's another big intersection, is that optimization of the supply chain as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Where there's large data, AI will definitely come in. You can't avoid that now.
You got it. That's true. Yeah. Yes.
Fantastic. Slightly shifting gears, right? You have also been a proponent of women in tech, women in Web3 as a break voice over the last years. Talk to me and talk to our listeners something about it. What are you doing in that space? Why is that of your key interest, and what are some of the initiatives that happen in women in tech and women in Web3?
So I think that there needs to be diversity in every company. So it's not just about men and women, but you and you live in India, I live in the US. That's also another form of diversity. Yeah. I think diversity of all kinds makes better and stronger innovation. And the crazy thing is, there have been so many studies that show that if you have a diverse team, that they will innovate faster and stronger and lead you into new markets. It's just fascinating to me that when we start out on these new emerging tech, we usually don't start out diverse. We usually start out very homogeneous. And so this is very much of a passion project for me. I started a group called Unstoppable Women of Web3. I added to it AI, again, listening to the customers. They thought that there was a great synergy. It's Unstoppable Women of Web3 and AI. And what I think is very powerful about the group is we strive to do three things. One is educate. We want to educate women on new technologies. So Bimlesh, you probably have heard that Google did this study and found if you have a job rec and there are 10 things that here's all the qualifications, there's 10 of them. Men will apply if they meet 4 of the 10. Women will only apply if they meet 10 of the 10.
Wow.
So if you put on your job rec, like we did, understands Web3 or understands blockchain or curious about it, women will say, ooh, I don't know that, so I'm not going to apply. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to provide a safe place, an inclusive place where women could come together. They could learn, they could, come to that next level. They could get certified. We give them a little badge that will be present in their digital identity. And we did that across things like digital identity, Web3, blockchain, metaverse, artificial intelligence. We did those classes there, and we make it available for free so that anybody has access. Anybody can come and get that education. So that was step number one. And we did that with all of our partners. My group, Unstoppable Women of Web3 and AI, has 220 companies that have come together to really drive that. And I would also say that, if you look at all those companies that have come together, each one has donated some part of education. So, for example, Alchemy donated a couple of sessions on blockchain because that's their specialty, developers in blockchain. And we had several metaverse companies come and give us metaverse education. AI companies, Bit Degree giving us classes on Web3. We donated classes on digital identity. I love that because that's really community-driven education, which is going to be so much more real world for all of these women out there. The second thing that we did, in addition to education, is we created something called the Most Inspirational Women of Web3 and AI. Now, why is that important? Well, I love quotes, and one of my favorite quotes says, if you can see it, you can be it. So we wanted to show people that there are women out there everywhere that are doing great things. And we wanted the list to be diverse in terms of not just being women, but also being geographically diverse. So for example, Priyanka from India, who does the 100 Women Blockchain of India, is in it, but as well, the Blockchain Association of Europe, she's in it as well. So that we've got a very diverse list. And we did that on purpose to make sure that no one could say, oh, there's no women in Web3. Now I can say, here's a link, go here. You can see 155 women from this year and 125 from last year. And so you could see that as well. So I wanted, you could see it, you could be it. And then the last portion portion is that we try to create places and venues so that women can come together and create in-person bonds as well, right? So for example, we're doing at NFT NYC, we're doing a coffee hour. We've got a panel with some great female founders that are going to share some wisdom, but the panel is only going to be like, 20 or 30 minutes. And then the rest of the time is networking. Let's meet each other. Let's make connections so that we stay together and support each other. So that's really kind of why we're doing it. It has great business impact on your innovation, how we're doing it with education, as well as, making sure we support and raise up all these great women and give them venues in person and digitally that they can get together. And so far we've trained 55,000 women, and we want to just keep going until, everybody really understands and has a choice on what they're going to do.
Fantastic. That's amazing. 55,000 people, especially women worldwide, is a fantastic stat. And to get this done, I think Web3 breeds that philosophy that you could contribute from being any part of the world. Unlike the other industry where the mindset doesn't shift to allow too much remote contributions to happen. So I think that one cultural mindset itself is a huge boost in the Web3 industry, because the talent is so scarce, but you got people who love it, understand it, and can contribute anywhere in the world.
That's right. Amazing. I agree. I agree with that. Yep.
Amazing. Well, what are you seeing, from the trends of women investing in startups?
So I see, just like men, women invest in things that they know and they understand, right? So let's take, for example, World of Women. That's an NFT collection. We still see strong investment of women in that collection because it's about women, and it's really emphasizing that women have multiple areas, right? It's about tech, it's about fashion, and it's okay to be fashionable. And so I do see investment still going in places that really resonate for them around being women and being a full woman, not just being a copy of a guy. I think that that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I also see some of my favorite women investors as well that are looking at the combinations of AI and Web3. So I find it interesting that a lot of male investors, when the bad market came, they immediately said, "Oh, not Web3, it's AI." They immediately cut away from Web3. See, and some of them now come back because the crypto price is going up, which is funny too. But I really saw women investors to say Web3 is still here, it's still important, even though AI is now important. So I'm going to dual invest. I'm going to invest in companies that combine blockchain and Web3, and I'll invest in AI companies and blockchain companies, because I think at the end game, both of those will be strong as they move forward. And I thought I'd be curious about your, because you guys are a Web3 accelerator.
Yeah.
And be curious if you found the same for your Web3 accelerator as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a lot of fun conversations to say that, hey, you know what, we are parking aside token investments. Obviously, it's a big no, given that the crypto market went down. Many of them shifted focus to AI, and as the market started to shift, we are now seeing also startup founders think of and integrating AI very nicely into use cases where they got to play around with data, they got to optimize costs of blockchain, gas fees, so that the end user doesn't feel that it's an expensive value proposition to kind of use the blockchain technology. So we are seeing that shift. Investors are also seeing the amalgamation of AI and blockchain coming together. But we have not seen the differential between male investors versus female investors, because we generally believe that women investors and women as angels investing in tech is far more lesser than the male investors and men investing in startups. I think that's just the way of the world. No matter in which part of the world you look at data, it always shows the skewed difference between that side of diversity.
It is very true. And here's the interesting thing to me. So if you look at charities, so giving to charities like Red Cross, for example, women by far donate and give more money by far than men do. But then when you look at investing,
Right.
it's the opposite. And so that's why I support people like, Trisha started Portfolio. And what she does is she educates women on how to invest. And they do like group investments, so a whole group of women, and they'll do like monthly calls where Trisha will lead the questions that are asked, so women can learn what questions do I ask, so I can become an official angel investor or a VC. Or if you look at Elena Gold, she's a partner at Redbeard VC. She's a young investor, and she's jumped in there and has really set a good bar for the next generation of don't be afraid of investing. Like investing and being potentially rich is a good thing, right? It's not a bad look for a woman. It's a good look for a woman. So I think it will change over time, but I do agree that it's difficult right now to get as many women investors, even though they give away so much money to charity, which we don't want to stop, right? Charities need money, but I would love to see it more balanced, like men giving more to charity and women investing more as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic, Sandy. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful to touch different aspects of your life experience, your professional, and what are you doing to pay it forward, pay it back, and empowering more women in tech across the world and creating impact so that we empower more diverse people to become more stronger, right? Essentially, that's how we all can do our little bit to make the world a better place than what it is. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Pleasure. So thank you, folks. Thanks for listening in to another episode of Hi Shit Out. This is Bimlesh Gundurao signing off. If you love what we do shower some love. Hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify and more. And if you're an early stage founder, do check out our God programs, and we'll look forward to talking to you and see what we can do. Because foundership is always founder first. And I like to borrow from what Sandy said. We will soon become founder obsessed to ensure that you win, not just in one startup, but you win every time you think of a startup. We are there to back you. So thanks, Sandy. Thanks once again.
Thank you. I love that. Founder obsessed.